They're moving in the right direction, but they will not catch up to the West Coast or to Oregon or Colorado until the laws are altered or changed here in Texas. Great breweries are on the West Coast and in Colorado, and the reason is the laws allow the breweries to do more things than they do in Texas.
In Texas, with the laws, we've created this distinction between brew pubs and microbreweries, and that's ridiculous.
You have to be one or the other. So you can only sell on-site or you can only sell off-site.
We're all kind of fighting with one hand behind our back here in Texas because of the laws that basically take sales away, sales that breweries in almost every other state get to enjoy. As a microbrewery, there'd be sales at the brewery. If it's a brew pub, there would be sales outside of the brewery.
Up until the last legislative session, it was the distributors and the big guys in the suits, and they were the only ones who would show up in the room and the only ones who would attend to the legislation. This last legislative session, craft brewers really came in and took everyone by surprise. We filled the rooms with craft brewers submitting new laws that benefit the state of Texas.
The two bills that were presented to the House and Senate were pertaining, one to the production industry of the beer business, the other to brew pubs. HB 660 was the brew pub bill that would allow them to increase their brewing capacity per year, as well as being able to distribute to other retailers. Whereas right now, brew pubs are limited to selling only on premise. They can sell packaged products, but it can only be sold at their facility.
You have to go to the brew pub and get the beer. You can take it away in a growler or a keg or whatever, but the laws are restricting them here in Texas where you can't distribute your own beer. So you can't get it in the store. So that's an inherent hindrance to the business model.
You open up a brew pub, it's more like a restaurant. You can brew your own beer, you can sell it in your own establishment, but you can't do anything else with it, right? You can't distribute it, you can't send it to your other restaurant.
My friends in Oregon have pubs and they sell at the bar, at the pub, and then they distribute as well. So they're able to sell a lot more beer that way.
There's a distinct competitive disadvantage for brew pubs within the state versus brew pubs out of the state who are allowed to sell their beer in our state.
And if you look at the success of some of the breweries like Breckenridge and Stone, I mean, these are brew pubs that are able to ship their beers elsewhere.
We just want to be able to distribute to ourselves. And if we were to have a second location, right now with the current code as it is, we would have to build a whole new brewery down there. And the brewery is a very expensive thing, and you can get a lot out of a brewery, and we could brew twice as much as we are now and send half of it down to our south location. But as the codes are now, that's illegal. We wouldn't be able to give beer to ourselves. We wouldn't be able to sell beer to ourselves.
If I'm going out trying to raise capital, and I say I want to put in a 7-barrel system, and I can't move that many kegs here in a timely enough manner, then anybody who's in the business world is going to say, why do you need to exceed your capacity? If those bonds were released, you're much freer to look at new markets, to help expand your business, help grow your business.
The final rendition of the bill would have forced the brew pubs to go through a distributor.
Basically, it would have allowed us to sell our product to distributors who could then resell it to the consumer and make money. Why wouldn't that be a good thing? Well, it is a good thing, but change is always slow.
Historically, in the state of Texas, the wholesaler lobby is really, really big. They're well-funded, so they're very powerful. And so if they decide that they don't want something passed, there's a good chance that it's not going to be passed. There's been a little bit of, we just don't want change because the status quo is seen to be good for the powerful interests.
Wholesale beer distributors of Texas are protecting the wholesalers, and that they should. What we're dealing with is shelf space in the market. And everybody fights tooth and nail for, 3 rows of 12 six-packs of their beer. That's what wholesale beer distributors protect. If we make our beer and try to distribute in there, we're going to bump one of those bigger guys out, and they're just not going to put up with it.
When it actually got to committee, the 660 was dead on arrival. It was proposed, it was voted on once, and then it was done.
I think it would have been great for the brew pubs here in Texas. The more good beer that's sold around the city, the better it is for all of us. But we were really pulling for the bill that really pertained to production breweries, which was HB 602, which would have allowed breweries to charge for tours, which we can't currently do, and give away up to 12-ounce bottles or cans, basically 144 ounces of product at the end of a tour. It was a charge for a tour and then send people away with a 12-pack of beer. So in essence, it was a way for us as production breweries to sell beer to people without having to step on what the TABC has already put into their code saying you cannot sell draft beer or packaged beer.
By law, the strict letter of the law, we're forced to sell to a wholesaler or distributor, and then they're forced to sell to a retailer, and the retailer sells to the end consumer.
The three-tier system is really interesting because the way it works with a wholesaler or a distributor is you essentially sell the rights to your brand to them to sell them. And so you lose all of that, a lot of interaction with your customers, you lose a lot of the money that you would get. I mean, you're paying someone to now sell your brand, and now you have to manage them. And for a small business that's just trying to get their feet under them, that's a difficult endeavor.
Distributors want to pull up to the door and fill the back of a semi with kegs and drive away. You know, so if we've got 6 or 10 or 12 kegs sitting in our cooler, there's nobody that's going to come over and pick that up from us and deliver it anywhere.
And one of the only breaks that craft breweries get in TABC law is what used to be called the Shiner exemption, but it's 75,000 barrels or less. Your brewer's license doubles as a distributor's license. So you're allowed to self-distribute. You can take your product to market yourself.
What's unique is that we can self-distribute, but we can't sell to the end user.
We are currently unable to sell beer here in the tap room. We can sell a pint glass and give you free tasters and do it that way.
Being able to sell somebody a beer who drives sometimes from very far away, I mean, the worst thing you can say is no to somebody. I mean, that's the last thing I want to do. I'm in the business of selling beer, but it's not, and we're talking about a 6-pack or a pint.
As it is now, we only open our doors every 3 months for open house events because it's financially not viable for us to give all of our products away for free. So we have essentially no outlet for us to share our beer with people without it hurting our bottom line.
The amount that they would sell on their docks is minuscule compared to how much they're going to sell in the marketplace as a whole. If anything, it helps the production breweries sell their brand, then the beer drinker is going to be more enamored with that product.
People are going to say, wow, this was a great beer. Let me buy it at the store. Next time when I go to the store, oh, I had that. That was great. Let me buy a 6-pack. It still benefits the retailer.